Hello, welcome to the Inner Knowing Podcast. My name is Erin Rogers. I'm your host, and I have the impeccable Lisa here today. I have known Lisa for over 20 years now, which is a little bit insane. From meeting her as the epic hairdresser from my small hometown to full life experiences, including both emerging as intuitives and mediums in our late 30s. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me. I would say like I am a medium and an energy healer. I connect with our loved ones in spirit and I love to channel healing. I'd like to create a large shift in the collective.
Yeah, I think if you are true to you, that will inadvertently create a ripple that is massively impactful. Lisa runs programs. You do one-on-one. She does amazing readings, and I'm actually currently in one of her programs, learning mediumship. I was having a call earlier today and saying, my life purpose is to help you connect to your like highest expression. And so actually in the practice that I've done with Lisa, even I was like, no, there's a wall in front of those people because I don't think that's the most important conversation that needs to happen. She's like, fair enough. She's like, good for you for knowing. So Lisa has been an amazing teacher. I've learned about evidential mediumship, which actually translates to evidential psychic work as well. I wanted to start by talking a little bit about the experience of following your intuition to start offering your work, more widely and ultimately online. When I met Lisa in 2004 or 5.
Oh, way back then, yeah.
Yeah, we bonded over Lisa got me to be blonde, which to be honest, if you can't see this recording, I have almost black hair basically. And so basically if you take your hair from black to blonde, you're in the salon every 6 weeks and you're there for about 6 hours because you're socializing with your friend while she's running a massively successful hairdressing business. And I actually will say also, ironically, our regular careers we started out in honed our skills for what we use now. Like I've been in HR for 20 years. Like we talk to people professionally all day long, and I feel like you learn how to tune in and read for people long before I knew I had the skill set. I feel like you always knew. And when I met Lisa, I was definitely a skeptic, but Lisa would say these things and I always would believe her. And I told her the story before we started about one point she was alluding to maybe ghosts or spirit. And she told me, no, I'm sure because someone moved the bananas in my kitchen. And I was like, someone moved the bananas? And Lisa lived a long time, and I remember being like, huh. And it always stuck with me as like, okay, something more is going on there and I don't fully get it. So without saying maybe how you like came to your gift, because I feel like you actually have really been connected to your gift the whole time. How did it feel to come out publicly with your gift?
Right. It just felt like it felt like coming home to myself. That's the best way I can say it. I think for a long time, you were right. Like I have many clients that can bring up conversations that we've had. A lot of people that I've worked with over the years that would just say like, go ask Lisa, she's psychic. And I think there was always that fine line of like doing something with it more streamlined, more mainline and more mainstream, sorry, versus like just kind of whenever it's coming up with clients.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I think working close with people is a very big tuning fork, if that makes sense. Spirit's going to be right there. They're going to help us through things. And then like I did see at one point during COVID when a lot of stuff was online, I actually didn't do this full time. I just would do readings for friends or practices, or actually started out like doing more outward energy healings and spirit coming through, or just like tidbits now and then where I would just message people and be like, hey, this, and then we get to talking about it. I think the biggest thing is like I saw you doing social media and, throughout the years, you have so many skill sets. And I know you're so like your main is business. You are so business. You can hone in on everything people need. And it's so funny how over the years I can see how like that's always been spirit coming through you. Like it's such a power place and people think it only has one space, But I think it's like the way that you help people work through that, you help me work through that as well. I remember messaging you and being like, oh my gosh, how do you feel about like doing this out here? What's the social media feel like? Like I'm just not, when I'm not a big social media person, I'm not, you'll see even now if you look at my Instagram, I'm just declaring out loud, I'm not a big social media person, but I did have a lot of clients at the time, international, that would say like, I want to send my friend to you. Do you have a website? And I was like, no, I don't have a website. And I know you encouraged me. You were like, just go on Instagram. They need to put a face to you. That's all they want. It was very valuable for me when you did that. I feel like that was a big step forward. And I just felt like it was kind of like, I felt very much like I was exposing a very vulnerable part of myself. It was very difficult, but it was such an incredible growth. And I think you don't realize that you like mentored me business and spiritual through that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and friendship. Like, I mean, just get the heck out there and do it, Like, I don't know. It was just a very different side for me.
I love that. And what did you say earlier? Something about your gift is to help people at the end of their life. Is that how you expressed it? Like how do you see your gift and your purpose when you're out there serving in the many ways that you do?
I think there's so many answers to that question. I know you don't want to sit there for 2 days, but I mean, we could. I think the main thing is like, if you're going to ask me through my energy healing, I work with always people in this life, all the things that they're going through. For some reason, I'm very pulled to like working with people, not necessarily end of life, but people that are maybe working through a really tough illness, or whether that's like chronic illness, or what some people will say is terminal, which of course you and I know that like we have different belief systems around this. And so I just feel like it's opened my eyes, and there's so many different ways. When I work with people with mediumship, I feel like there's so many different ways that healing comes through. Yes, a very big one is like people that maybe in their lifetime don't have a belief system, or did have a belief system and sort of moved on from there into something else. I think it's so valuable that the feedback I get from a lot of people is about like, oh, I didn't know there was something after. I'm so grateful to know there's something after. That's very powerful for people. Is that sort of what you meant? That kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's something that you said, yeah, around sort of like that end of stage life. You have a lot of talents
yeah.
around supporting people and how they experience that, whether they transition, someone else transitioned, like.
Right. Yes, you're right. We did talk earlier. I know what you're saying. Yes, like if I work with somebody who is very end stages of this life, moving on into their next like energetic existence, you're so right. Yes, I do find that for some reason I'm being brought to that, and I know that's obviously through spirit, whatever the meaning is for this. I feel like it's so powerful for me here. I do feel like there is something about being that in between, that like when that time is coming, or when somebody's very close to that, whether it's for the family, for the person themselves, I feel like it's just been such incredible experiences all around, just to be able to hold space, to hold the love, to share the communications that are coming around it.
Yeah. And even if you aren't in that stage of transition, but someone you loved was, how comforting it even is to know that they have gone to a place of love where they can connect with, like, to understand that energy maybe appears differently than you previously had believed. I think for me, I grew up religious, so I think I always had a bit of a baseline of belief there, and it's definitely shifted in this work. But like, how comforting is, I think it would be really hard if your beliefs were like, and it ends like that. Feels hard to me. I feel like belief is something that really is supportive, and then for you to go evidentially to like maybe ground that belief. I think it's hard sometimes with this work is quote unquote not logical, even though I think it's the most logical thing, but to actually offer some sort of humanity that's grounded in logic to help them really actually almost exhale and receive the mystical, or however people like to, the spiritual, like to receive it more deeply because their brain can relax and trust.
Well, yes, and I think, when you say like the more logical, I mean, like maybe that's why like I feel like I look more to that always. Like I am also very skeptical, like I believe it when I know it, believe it when I see it. And it's so interesting because it may have taken me a long time to feel comfortable, just like, I've always let people want to decide for themselves. But you're right. I am very like, it needs to be evidential because that's what I would want to receive. I want to know without a doubt that like my loved one has made it, that they're okay, that they're like, tell me more about it. How will I know without doubting a moment of this conversation? I think it's very valuable.
In the intuitive realm, there's 4 types of intuition that we most commonly receive. There's other cool ones. Are you so there's claircognizant, clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. Are you quite claircognizant?
Yeah. Do you, yeah, I am very claircognizant, which is
the way you talk about what you want, because I don't care. Like, I'm just saying, as a human being, I have a feeling where I go, yes, that's right, not, or I hear audibly. But to me, the way you're describing it also would be very supportive for people that are claircognizant, I feel like. I don't know, that's what it feels when you're discussing it. So claircognizant is clear knowing, so knowing beyond the thinking mind. Clairaudient is hearing beyond the physical ears. Clairvoyant is seeing beyond the seen, and clairsentient is feeling beyond the like felt senses of like you can touch it.
Yes.
So tell, if you want, and it doesn't have to be mediumship, just an intuition in general, like, because you need to be connected to your intuition. Like, you can be a medium and maybe not always listen to your intuition, meaning you need both online to follow the path, I would say.
I agree.
And trust yourself. Can you tell me a little bit about like how you would maybe experience your intuition and like how it felt on the path of going to be like, maybe in a hairdressing chair being like, hey, to, hey, I'm actually leading teaching in a multiple different ways. I'm facilitating in bigger events, like when you, the event up in Squamish, for example, like you've gone from sort of like back alley, like, okay, only you and I know, to like very beautifully public. how did you follow your intuition to trust that it was okay to move along with your gifts in that way?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think like I don't think I've ever been like closeted about it in any way, shape, or form. I do feel like there's always been something where I have a lot of wounds around making this a job or being a position where I exchange money or have an energetic exchange for it. That's been tough for me. So for many years, like, and I will say it started long before, like, so as a kid, like, I know a lot of times my mom would look at me and she would be like, what? Like, I would feel nauseous or I had like the anxious tummy all the time. And that was my clairsentience always, right? As a kid, because I feel like clairsentience and claircognizance, like the knowing and the feeling, and I mean, they're both around the solar plexus and the gut. So here we go, right? Imagine that times 100. I think that was always my childhood. And I would get a lot of like, I would get visitations. So there was clairvoyance. I would get a lot of the signs through music, or I would hear people talking. And so I think I had a little bit of everything, but I didn't understand really that everybody else didn't have that. That was the main thing. So as I got older and I moved into like my hairdressing and stuff, I think like you're right, working with people in the chair, we would just talk back and forth. If somebody was around me, something would just drop in very quickly, and it would be more knowing than anything. It wasn't even like I would necessarily feel something. Sometimes I would feel something and I'd be like, oh, do you feel this way sometimes? And they'd be like, yes. So I know those two play a very big part, more than like the audience and the visual at different times in my life.
Yeah.
But I do think like moving through all of that, moving it into actually being something, there was a moment in time where I feel like I just didn't know where to go next. And I think that's where the big pivot happened. I had a big shift in my life. It was quite traumatic for me. And I am going to be the first one to say, like, I don't have a lot to complain about. I am very lucky. I had a very incredible set of parents, an incredible family unit, grandparents, everybody around me that treated me like pure gold. I was very fortunate, okay? I'm very grateful to have a partner beside me that's like, as well, like a pretty incredible person. And I think there isn't any moments in my life that I've had that I've dropped out, but this was a moment where I was like, okay. And it was my own, it was a moment where I rejected the intuition and I felt it so strongly. And it was the first time, I will tell you, that I pushed that aside for something in the human. And I mean, I won't do it again, but I did have a time off. I did move away from it. I rejected it. Did they come more than ever? Yes. I remember like after my first son was born, how I'd like start to like potty train and be running across the hall like I did in the olden days, like because they were always there. So I think it felt when the time that I sort of like started doing it more outward, more mainstream as the main thing versus hair, I think it was just a discovery and understanding that like, oh, not everybody has this. Like I knew you, and to be honest, I'll be on for everybody listening, Erin being one of my close friends through my 20s, like you're very psychic. And so talking with you about stuff was very much like, oh yeah, like just this is what we talk about. Like, of course you knew that. Everybody knows that. Of course this is what's happening. Of course that's what this person is about. Of course that's their journey. I just think like I didn't know because I was close with people like you that just, this was normal for you as well, but we didn't call it anything. Until people would start to say to me like, oh, go ask Lisa, she's psychic. And I'd be like, no, isn't it just like common sense? Like you can just get that from this, right? Like I think my mom also told me, my grandmother was like very much like, her mom had this a lot. My mom told me the same thing. So as it expanded and became more mainstream, it was kind of a bit of like, it was kind of my path to survival. And I know that's a very strong statement to make, but there's a lot of sovereignty in finding what your true calling is. And I feel like it just felt like, okay, I feel like somehow in this, I can move out of the depths of what I was in healing others. I was healing myself.
Yeah.
Or I had to heal myself to heal others. I think it's like, is it chicken or the egg? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either. I do think sometimes this human experience can be hard because a moment of contrast can offer, I'm underemphasizing how the experience was, but on a very energetic level, that was an extreme moment of contrast that actually then said, well, shit, these really are my gifts. And this is really actually a path that if I follow, I too will evolve alongside those I serve. Like I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And I do know in our lifetimes, contrast is often moments of choice and decision, or seeing what we maybe like. If you always had those gifts to watch, to have that, like, it's like, oh, this isn't, because I had my own version. I think it's really gorgeous when I meet people like you that always were connected. You didn't have any naysayers in a strong way in your house. And we actually all have the gift. It's just like we all can see, and there's a spectrum, right? And then some of us are really connected, really with greater ease. And anyway, so I do think it's a spectrum. But what I will say in that like really generous story you shared was the moment of contrast ultimately catapulted you into really serving in a big way where people really benefit. And you've transformed, I would say, in really massive ways. Like you look settled in your being versus some might say we both have ADHD and we have a little bit of that energy, but like you're as grounded ever. And like, I think your motherhood, your work, your community service, like everything that you offer is it's transformed you, I think, by being in service. I don't know. How does that feel true to you or resonate, or how does that sort of occur to you?
I feel like I can just take the biggest deep breath because it feels so aligned, what you said. I feel like that. I thank you for seeing me, for one thing. I do feel like because you saw me in the previous state where I wasn't, and now you see that I am, and that's so valuable. I'm so grateful to have like a friend like you to be able to say that to me and see me. And I think like there isn't maybe a lot of people that will see that transition so closely because they weren't there through all of it, you know? And I think maybe my partner, my mom, you, there's a few other people maybe very close to me, but there's not very many. And I'll be honest, the way that you just said it out loud, it's like you just spilled out all of this incredibly powerful light energy for me. That's the way I saw it. I just saw like everything gets lighter, everything gets brighter, and I just feel home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Which is cool. And I think,
Sorry, you're right. It does actually, like, sorry to touch on the fact that, like, it goes to every other aspect of my life. You are so on point. Because if I step away for a little while or I'm back in the human for a little while, it really does. Like, there's something about this work that really puts us in a different place. It gives us different perspective. Our evolution is on a totally different trajectory. Very many things, right? Does that make sense? The way you even understand things around you is so, it's like a gift for me to be able to be expansive in every moment. And if I'm not, see that as well. I mean, I'm a mom, so like just so everybody's listening, there is moments where I'm not so expanded and I have to really like write it in. But that's the gift. I can come back there and be like, okay, yes, like this is the evolution of it, you know?
Totally. I love that. No, you're like, I was like, oh yeah. Cause I can be quite heady, and I have in my journey of like, discovering how I'm going to express it. It feels like, and I don't know if you feel this, I've like stepped out and been like, here I am. And then all my wounds are like, fuck you. And I'm like, oh, and I go back into the human. But every time I go more human, I personally feel like I get sick. And then
Sick and
the
stuck.
more, and the more I come out in terms of expressing and sharing and being, which doesn't satisfy my mind whatsoever, I become healthier. And it's a very interesting experience. And my body is a big expression in terms of how I'm like, astrology, it shows up in my astrology, but it's just like when you're saying that, I'm like, oh, that's why I just automatically feel better when I step into, to me, it always looks like flow. It looks like stepping into a stream. And I was saying to Lisa before this, I've had I've had a year full of contrast, everybody. I've had a year full of contrast that had me moving countries, have a surprise renovation, finding myself again in a city I had left 6 years before. And it was very hard in my personal opinion, and my body has reflected that challenge, and I thank my body for going through that with me. But in the contrast, it was like, but I miss it. And I know it's part of my gift, and my brain will never be, for me, my mind will never be satisfied. I do know that, and I need to remember that, because I often get stuck in the like thinking and figuring it out and versus you were like, I stepped in and I felt so good. I continue to follow. The niggles is actually but it's powerful. I feel like it's really, because I feel like living in this expression sometimes feels like other, although I will say I've never felt more accepted by a community. Like it's almost like everyone else, either I've actually just met people, or I don't know what's happened in my change in my reality, but I'm like, oh, everyone else is pretty into this. Like it's very rare that I out weird somebody these days, where I felt like 6-7 years ago people were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't know, just because like the aliens came in during breath work, and I don't even know anything about aliens, but they showed up and people are like, now they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I feel like I can say really weird things, and at minimum, people will meet me and say, oh, that's cool. Versus it felt like at the beginning of the journey, people were like, you should be in an insane asylum. But also, my energy's changed, my beliefs have changed. So it also could just be a mirror of my own transformation.
Right? Like how you're showing up with it, right? Like, I mean, but also I do think there has been a big evolution since COVID, around COVID. I feel like that was a lot of people that didn't, not to stick on that too long, but a lot of people that weren't looking inward really had time to look inward. They almost had no other choice but to look inward. And some people, I think it was a survival mechanism. Others, I think it was a way to cope, or maybe looking for or maybe just time alone in your apartment while you're waiting for this to pass. I don't know, any one of those. I do think there was a lot of looking inward, because it was just that kind of time where, and I don't know, maybe I just feel like, also to be fair for everybody listening, I did not join Instagram for this until that time. So maybe it's just because I wasn't a part of that world. And I feel like when you go on social media, there is an abundance of different like variety of evolution through the spiritual networks. And so I don't know, that is overwhelming for me at times. Maybe it's really good for other people that are reaching out. I've been sort of somebody to try and keep and stay in my lane because I do get overwhelmed with it. But I think it's beautiful that there is more talk about it. You know, what I think is amazing is there's more science happening about what we are doing. You know, that is so powerful
So
right now.
much. Yeah. So many studies. And also I feel like at minimum people are like, okay, I really appreciate someone that says, I can consider that. I don't need to change my mind. I don't need to agree. Like, I'm like, don't agree with me.
Valuable.
But if you could just consider it, or for people that have been in my life a long time, I don't need you to understand, but could you love me as I am? I think that's been a really gift journey. Like, you don't have to believe in this. I really don't care. But could you just accept
Yeah.
me as I am? That's
And how,
actually like,
like when you say that out loud, do you feel like safe to say that? Do you feel like you're standing in your power when you say that? Like that's, you've told me many times this saying about like that may not be your truth, but it's my truth and it's okay for it to not be your truth. And like that's the most valuable. And people, this is the thing, people have to come to this on their own. Like we're not here to
yeah,
convince anybody. I'm here to hold space when
no,
you want to learn about it, but I'm not gonna, I don't need to sell it to you in any way, shape or form. Like,
exactly. And I think that's just part of a journey. Now that I've been able to watch other people go through the journey I went through, like there is a point in time where you might want to convince everybody, but I only wanted to convince everybody to feel safer in my own belief. And then eventually I felt safe enough in my own belief that I was like, oh, you could be opposite to me and I'm still okay. So like I see that a lot too of like, they're like, you've got to believe. And then I'm like, babe, just believe whatever you want. And then we'll chat about it or not. Like, cause but it was as I strengthened in my belief, then those things fell away. But I've been on, I don't know, I've been on a real journey to like, but I was living, I feel like, I was trying to be the most normal person alive while being a total weirdo. And finally I was like, I'm pretty weird. I should just stop trying to be a normal person. And it's like everything changed. I was telling the story of when I figured out sort of the level, maybe gift I had. And I always say it's like, I felt like I was a fish trying to fly my whole life. And then someone put me back in water and I finally felt like I belonged.
how good does that feel to hear, like, just for you to
Yeah.
say that, for me to hear it? I think I've always been a weirdo and I don't know anything different. And like people, I was always that person. Like if you go to elementary school, like I know, these like really amazing girls that I'd like really want to play with, but it was really hard to sit with them because there was always so much more going on around me in my world. And then like,
Totally.
it was hard to, I'd play with the boys a lot because they didn't ask a lot of things. And then like, and also I think I always was really protective around judgment and acceptance. Those are really big ones for me. I come from a house where like my mom was really hard around acceptance and like just love. And like, I feel like there's an idea where like moving around people, I realized how rigid I was growing up around like, it's not okay to treat people that way. Like either I wanted to crusade and change them, or which was a lot for people, or I like really wanted to like try and be like this kindness of this bridge that's going to rope everybody together. And like in high school, that's a little bit like people would look at me and be like, I kind of was not like, it wasn't
Yeah.
accepted. And I think I don't know another way to think. So it took me a long time to try and like put that stuff away. And I remember going through like grade 11 and 12 and like, I don't know. I just like, there's certain things I know I didn't belong in certain rooms. Like I was in a pageant in grade 12 and I was like, I'm not going to do this, man. I'm going to be here anyways, you guys, because I'm going to
I
just talk about
forgot you did that. That
I'm
is
going to talk
such
about all the
an
dreams I have about what's going to happen next week for you.
yeah.
Like people
Yeah.
don't want to,
No.
But so I
That's a
think you're right.
very niche small town experience that you had there. That's amazing.
You do the things for your grandparents because they love you so dearly. So
Yeah.
you put on the dress and you wave and I don't regret it. I think at the time it was difficult because it was fitting into a mold that I just never really fit
Yeah.
into. And I think like moving
Totally.
through doesn't fare well with like getting a boyfriend or like, having all the friends around you that invite you to all the parties. But like, it's like eventually things happen and you find your way through it. I
Totally.
don't know.
I just remember always being like, but it's so obvious. Like to me, I was always like, but the truth is so obvious, and I would always get stung with like, I would just tell you the truth of like, hey, your hair's blonde, and also da 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 da, like your deepest
Yes,
darkest truth, and people are
yes,
like,
go
how do you
ahead.
know that? And I would be
Always.
like, I don't understand how you don't know that. Like, what do you? And so anyways, I do feel like my family was big. They really like the conventional path. Like maybe your family had a little bit of my family was like June Cleaver. Like we're gonna be those type of people, and I'm like, I want to do anything but the normal path. And they were like, you can't, you won't survive. And then it just spent my lifetime being like, I'm gonna do it
But
anyways.
I think it's so valuable. Like, look where you are now. Almost not in spite of, but because of the fact that like you didn't have that extra example or path paved, you just went and did it, and you're still paving it. But the amount of healing and things that you're working through for not you but the people around you.
And the lineage stuff. And I have I think I'm very grateful for all the empathy it's given me in living through, felt like very challenging circumstances of being different.
Yeah.
I have deep empathy and I can be like, but you can do it. I promise you can do it because I literally lived it. I did want to talk about, sorry, go for it.
And do you feel like so aligned with where you're living now, even though it might have like had some stages?
I feel pretty good. If I'm just being super honest, because I think it's helpful for people to hear other people say this, I'm sometimes so frustrated that my own inner system, whether it's like nervous system, my beliefs, has kept me from fully expressing in my work. But that's just the path. Like in my
Right.
ideal world, I'm living off of my gift in a way but like that's just not the path, and that's okay. But like, so I feel pretty good,
Still
but I
coming.
have like,
Still
say it
coming.
again.
The
Still coming.
merger
Yeah.
coming.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be old ass babe doing this job. So like
Same.
doing the
We'll do it
work.
together. I
But do you
feel
know
like
that
oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say like for a long time for me, because I'm a big observer, I would see all these people online and I was like, wow, they're doing all this stuff. But it was like I could never conceptualize the inner work, or maybe they weren't telling the truth. Like I'm actually gullible, ironically. Like I actually need to like work to make sure that I'm questioning things. I'll be like, yeah, I'll take you at
Okay.
face value. And
I
so
like that because you are like what I wish I could be more of. Like I'm very skeptical. I really like that you come to things like wanting to know more, being curious, being like, show me, teach me. I'm very like I hang back and wait until I see it a few times or I can know more
mhm,
about it. I came from a family too that was like, you say about your upbringing, like I'm very fortunate. Like my mom and dad were very much like, yeah, like we didn't do that, but you can do it, or you can do anything.
mhm.
Like we'll help you. They were very amazing to always be like, yeah, we'll get you there. You can get there.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
did. I had incredible stepping stones. I can't complain. And I think the biggest thing about it is too is like knowing the fact that like you can do that. You can get there. It's like there is a space for everybody. But I
Yeah,
think the value in what you said is like you're kind of in two different lanes right now. But the thing is maybe at some point you're going to be the merger. Do you know what I mean? Is
totally. And actually, a
that
bridge
coming?
is what,
Are we
yeah,
doing that?
a bridge is one of my gifts in this world. I can tell you
Okay.
I can always bridge all the experiences on the contrast. I do think and so I've lived those contrasts. And I just say it so people don't think it's like this perfect, you're going to have it's not black and white. The whole thing
Yeah.
is gray. And the sooner
Love
you can
it.
get comfortable with gray, I think it just gives you a little bit of like breathing room to be like, oh, it wasn't, it's like, fuck. If it was perfect, I tell you, I would have been out there in 2020 being like, got this gift, monetized it. Now I just live free and fancy.
Of
That is my
course.
mental perception. That is not reality, and it never should have been. But like, I think there's always these interesting. Just because you're intuitive doesn't mean you don't have a human experience along the
I love
way,
it.
and have to struggle sometimes to listen to it. It's funny.
That's
I'm
part
looking
of
at
it, right? It's like the
yeah,
releasing. We talk about like releasing control, surrendering to what's coming, and trusting
mhm,
that what is coming is where you're going next, and
yeah,
that you have to walk through that, and this is the path. This is the point. There is.
yeah,
You're right. You said once to me a long time ago when we had a really incredible conversation. I like our rabbit hole conversations.
hmm
You said, well, if we were meant to walk all the way over there, we would be there. We're meant to have like a foot in here, a foot there, move through the struggle. There is many times I've used that in my teachings, in my
hmm
mentorships, in any way, shape, or form, with my kids, with my partner, with myself. I have to reflect back, like, oh, we are meant to walk in here, so we have to feel this. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on this. Like, why are we here?
No,
You know?
what a bore. It would actually be boring. I have to remember, be like, if you had a straight path you were walking down, I know I would sabotage it anyway. So why would I think I even
Well,
want
you know
that?
what? And how powerful that when we're stepping into like the healing arts, I think it's so big to understand like with mediumship, the number one thing that I love, I've worked with Danielle Strength, the Squamish medium, for like
Hmm
5 or 6 years now. She's an incredible mentor, an incredible medium. And she used to always say like the life of a medium is a life well lived, the colorful life. So
hmm
it really reminded me of like all these experiences we have when you
Yeah.
are being the merger, when you are at that step with where you're bringing it to. It's
hmm
all of your experiences on both sides, like your business side, the masculine, the feminine,
Yeah.
and then how you move it together. I feel
Yeah.
like that's such a powerful statement in itself to
hmm
be able to step into any kind of spiritual work. Is like all your experiences as we move through the human. It's not mistakes. It's not like a painful past. Maybe it's a painful past. I'll be the first one to admit that in our human. But it
hmm
brings us the capability to feel into the vibrations of that moment and support people healing around us.
100%. And I think I once had someone tell me the highest path isn't healing, the highest path is creation. And for me, that feels very true. I think a
Yeah.
lot of us can get stuck in healing, and I had to really I was like, I'm not healing. I will be healed along the way, but healing is not my goal.
Right.
Creation is my goal, and whatever that means to you. And I actually feel like that felt like it gave me a lot of permission on the path of discovery. And like, I actually am here for experiences. I'm not here for perfection. I really want perfection,
Wow.
but I'm here for experience.
Wow.
Like, I
You
just want
know,
to be perfect.
You
Like,
would get
no, you
along
don't.
great. You would get along great with my partner because he's
Yeah.
also here for perfection and I'm here for experiences. And so like things can get rocky at times. But like
Yeah.
I love that you said that because it is so grounding and just like it's like you put me back in my present moment when you said, "Are you like I'm here for creation?" Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Way cooler. Actually, creation's super cool.
Yes.
And P.S. If you believe in God, he or she or they were here for creation too. They weren't
Yes.
here to heal the world. That's something they did along their path. But like
Yes. Beautiful.
God was pretty into
Absolutely.
creation.
And always creating because what's happening around us all the time, right?
Revolution. Way more
Yeah.
fun.
I love it.
On my path, I found a lot of like literal mediums of learning, and something I really loved that I went through an obsessive I get obsessed was near death experiences. And the reason I love them was because the way people describe their near death experience is how I experience when I meditate. And it was really comforting to me that someone, because I feel like sometimes meditation feels like kind of weirdly described to me, but I go on these crazy journeys and it's like it feels like I'm returning to joy or source, like if I really get into a great binaural beat. And then I think you can get a lot of messages there. But I feel like near death experiences are the other side is something that you also basically that's the room you're talking to when you're like you're building the bridge between the here and now. The other side, what does it feel like, or how do you experience the other side, or whatever, however you like to describe it?
Oh, that's a good one. Also, I love that you bring up the meditations where you've traveled somewhere because I've also had that experience and I wanted to pick your brain back about that in a minute. But okay, how would I experience the other side when they come to me? So, because I am very in my human, and you know, my dad was a cop, he was a firefighter. I've been always around like the evidence and all the ways of seeing things exactly as they are. I think it's just naturally in my human. They know that for me to eventually do this work, I needed to see them as us. And so, to be honest, actually, not true, because I guess I think I shared with you years ago when I was very young, like I would see somebody walking in human form, but it was like a shadow. And then my great grandmother came to me in full color when I was maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. And so I think for me, it's always been very valuable to see them as us. So even though they're probably just pure light right now, they still come to me and they look like a hologram. And that's for my own ego mind to be able to step into the
Yeah.
work and be like, okay, we have a conversation. And so the way that they show me the other side, to be honest, is so much like what's here. It almost feels just like, it feels like a very light version of what's happening here. It feels like there's no limits, there's no pain, there's no struggle, there's no weight on people, but it feels like they're able to walk through their existence the way they would here. I know it sounds very funny to say, but I'm just picking from my own experience in readings. And people will come in sometimes and they'll tell me something of what they're doing there, and their loved one will say to me, like, oh my God, they used to do that all the time. You're like, that's all they ever wanted to do. Or
Yeah.
it will be somebody like maybe that wasn't able to do it in life anymore and this is what they wanted to do. And I have no idea. But I'm like, oh, I'm just going to tell you, like, he is pumping iron over here and like winning some championships. Like, I don't know anything about this stuff, but like this stuff comes in. And so, to be fair, maybe in my work I haven't asked enough, like, what is it like over there? But in my meditations, I feel like there is something where the best way I can do it is I can explain that I've seen pure light. I have been taken down an example that I didn't know until I was in it, that I was traveling to the other side, which was wild. The only way I realized what it was is because after, you know, once I looked into it further, like what was this experience, and I felt it as I was going towards the end of it. And I actually asked to be brought out of it because I was in my fear state. It was a bit too early maybe for me,
Sure.
or
Yep.
I needed to see it for a reason. But it did. It was a very much the same as like when we go over there, it felt like spirit was trying to show me like, look, this is what we're going to move through on our way out. And I was like, so powerful. So I think like I did see the transition to there. I did experience it. Getting there, I wish I would have waited it out because maybe I would have had more experiences like you. Have you seen that? Do you know more about that?
How
I
does
talk
it
a lot
occur?
about the human and what's happening here. So sorry, I'll just
Yeah.
add really quick. I
Yep.
know that my main goal too right now, and that may evolve. Spirit is always evolving me through this. Is like I know I work really hard to heal the person sitting in front of me, even though I work for spirit and I work for the loved ones that come in. We work together really hard to heal the person in this life, or give them the capability to leave things behind, you know, not necessarily even closure, but just move forward. And I think maybe there is going to be an evolution now that we talked about it, that maybe I'll learn more about the other side. But tell me more.
Yeah, I do want to say like what's interesting when you describe them in like an ideal scene to tell their loved one. all of this to me always hits me as it's a translation of a vibration. So the best way for you to speak about the loved one is for them to give you a vibration of information they can receive. That's how it occurs to me. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like almost like turning a TV channel and be like, hey, they'll understand this. They'll understand this TV show.
Yes.
So if you describe the TV show this way, they'll
Yes.
really get it. And then the loved one is doing. Anyways, I have very like
Clairvoyance.
my clairvoyance is very specific and I see things in layers specifically.
Right.
And
Okay.
so for me, it's like that's the closest layer that's the best to access and the best way to relay the information. And then there could be 17 layers of truth. And then that's a whole other conversation of how
Right.
things occur. Like there is no ultimate truth in my opinion. There's just love. That is the only thing that is true and everything else is a definition of how you can receive it. So that's how I
That's
and so that's why when I'm in
beautiful.
session, I'm always like, let me just give you the message. And I think you really taught me stuff about like validating it, which is amazing. It feels very peaceful on the other side to me. I often will experience it as like there's a part of it that's a void, which just means we're a series of particles floating in a beautiful, loving environment. And I sometimes take people there in my healing.
Wow.
And I was talking about this earlier today, and there's books like The Instruction by Ainsley MacLeod or Dolores Cannon that talk about different versions of this that can be very interesting. I've read all of them because I had a real reading face in my but it's like I think Earth school to me because I believe I'm a soul that comes from somewhere greater, but it's like I'm here as a soul to experience contrast in my growth. And I come many times to experience that and I have people that I see all the time when I come down here. That's how it feels to me. And then some people I only interact with once or twice and that I feel like Earth school is grade 1 to grade 3. That's just how it occurs to me in my body and my being. And then there's greater, more expansive, loving places for us to also experience. That's pretty far out there, who knows. And so, but I feel like part of contrast is also to be able to connect to spirit. And actually, please tell me if I don't make any sense, but part of the reason I feel like even because we talked about how mediumship has changed, right, from 100 years ago to today, I think that there is more love on the planet. People could access the other side with actually greater ease. The fact that it's more accepted is actually there is more of it and we have evolved to receive more of it. There are more people here on the planet than ever that can receive, that can tune in. They need attunement. That's why they go to people like yourself who could guide, teach them and help them to attune to the vibration. But like 100 years ago, maybe because we were in nature, that's what needed to speak to us more often. And now we're more in, away from nature, but actually the bodies have lightened and they can receive the other side. I feel like I just maybe even channeled that answer. I don't know what happened.
Beautiful.
What do you think? How do you receive that? How does that occur?
I absolutely agree with all of it. I'm a big person to talk about before I move on to that, I want to let you know when you talked about the other side and like the way that it feels expansive in particles. Yes, I should add in, I do feel like they can be everywhere at the same time. If they have a child in the UK and a child here, it's like they can exist being there, here. They're so expansive. I do like that you brought that up.
There's no limitation to energy. People always like, well, how do you do a Zoom call? I'm like, because energy doesn't care. The energy is everywhere all the
Absolutely.
time.
They're
And
there
it's a
with
vibe.
you, they're with me. Yes.
So I don't believe in limitations, but again, I'm also a Sagittarius. So I'm like, limitations, get out of here.
Well, and I think it's like what you know in your body. Like when you said you just channeled that, like you're so deeply connected, yes, to all of it. I think, I am going to be the first person to talk to people. If they come to me for like an alignment coaching session or we talk about any of their intuitive alignment through this walk on this earth, I'm going to talk about the fact that we exist really primarily out in the horizontal energy field. And that's like everything around us, social media being out, like what you described as like all the things around us now. Whereas like years ago, people existed a lot more in their vertical flow. And they maybe were in the force more, maybe they were in nature more, because that's what there was, which does put you back in your vertical flow. There is just something about it, going silence, going inside, being there. I know, of course, like we have these beautiful monks that still sit in this, that generate this beautiful energy for the collective consciousness that will help bring this in, and that's what they do all the time. They can find that because they've never bought into that outside. This is where they exist here, and maybe that's their job, is to be here with that vibration, which is so beautiful. I definitely feel when you talk about, like, you actually mentioned like people coming to me to be attuned. That's very interesting. I've had a lot of people tell me like they've taken a Reiki course, gotten the attunements, and like then now I can like break open, my heart is broken wide open. There's many different ways, but why they look at it in other humans or courses, I'm still going to be the person to come here and say, even in my mediumship, I'll tell everybody in my mentorship, like you can just learn from spirit. Like there is people that like just meditate, sit in it, feel the different energy, go on different journeys. You don't even need like, some people are very into what is it called when you take, mushrooms, or what is it? Please tell me.
A medicine journey, maybe? Yeah,
medicine.
psychedelics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying like don't go do your tea, all that stuff. Do you? However, I feel like I'm the one that I'm like gonna coach people to like bring you back off of that and like how about you just go to back when there was nothing, sit with it, lay with it, go for a walk in nature where there's nothing, just you and the connection, clear your mind, do your
Yeah.
breath work. Focus on your breath, allow what's coming in to pass through, like
Yeah.
move through that exercise directly between you and the creator. Like what if?
Yeah.
What if? And what if, if we both grew up with religion, going to church, having practices. What if going to church wasn't so much about like hearing one man talk out of a book and telling you like the guilt and the sin and however you receive it? Maybe some people receive it in beautiful ways, and I'm so grateful for that as well. Maybe it got too human, and maybe it actually was through the singing together. Maybe it was through the vibrations that we
Oh,
all
I love
held
that.
in that
Yeah.
community, that collective, the vibrations that you brought higher. Maybe it's not about what we think of at all because we're so caught up sometimes in the human. Maybe we can just go back into like finding it in here.
100%. Yeah, I've got lots of things to say about religion at some other point.
But
But
you
like
just
it's just
channeled a whole bunch of stuff, and none of
yeah.
that came from like you learning it. Yes, you recommended some books. Maybe that gave you some perspective, but the way that it just all came in so quickly, that's just you sitting with spirit and it coming in from the creator, from
Yeah.
your energy that you tap into, this kind of thing, right? How
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And it's just it's to me when you say all that stuff, it's like it's just like a nervous system. It's co-regulation. I can be attuned by you because you're so tuned in that it's easier for my whole belief system, my energetic field, to hold it long enough in that belief cycle to then walk away and also do it for myself. And that's why
There, that's
I
beautiful. Yeah,
feel like my
amazing.
work has changed. I really, really try to resist telling. My work is about experiential living so that you become
Love that.
stronger in your own trust, intuition, and belief system. Because we will take something from the Bible. I don't want to give you a fish. I want to teach you how to fish. And I think actually experiential learning is the most important thing. I'm not interested in telling anybody. I do love it, but I don't want to tell you the answer because I will limit you in my own
Yes.
energetic field. And then my
Wow.
greatest nightmare would be to limit somebody because also I have less attachment, I find, than some people. But like I'm just telling you something in that moment that's true in that exact moment of energetic stream based on where you are and what you're doing. And you can make a one different decision the next moment and a new truth can become available. And so I should not tell you the truth. I should not tell you your truth. I feel like I'm now being asked to create spaces for you to more deeply connect in with your truth consistently so that you can be guided, especially in an age of like AI and all this other crazy stuff. It's like, well, you actually, your intuition's even more important because the world's trying to get better at lying to you and you have to trust yourself.
Wow. Wow. We just had this conversation the other day. I can't believe you're saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to go backwards. It's like everything moved here, and now we have to actually go back to like what it was
Yeah.
before, you know? It's so wild because are you okay if I just name drop somebody? I know I name dropped
Yeah.
earlier, but I have to tell you the way that you speak right now when you say the way that you do. I know that you guys do very different sides of the coin, but like the upbringing, or like maybe it's just like you grew up maybe Catholic. Did we say this? So you know a lot about that side. I don't. I grew up Lutheran. It was very like relaxed Christian, but still I didn't get that from it. I think there's a reason why. But so it wasn't terrible. It was great. You're right, what we took from it. But I will say, interestingly enough, the way that you just explained how that attunement would work, or how you want to just slide by it and just get some sort of expansion of what you're going to take from it and then move into your own, but like a validation that it does exist here and it's okay, but not
Yeah.
directing you in any certain way. When I was going through the stuff that I was going through, I saw the most impactful energy healer. Her name is Claudia Chirico from Bloom Energy Healing. And what was wild? She did basically she said like she just worked with me, not even said, but worked with me in the exact same way. And somehow was able to like, didn't say like, oh, you're a medium, this is what you're going to do, or like, this is how we're going to connect and heal. She like allowed me the space to find it myself. And it's like, she would have known it the whole time, but everybody's going to come to it in their own version of it. And so I just feel like you guys need to know each other because you are two of the same kind of, like, it's so valuable. And I
Yeah.
feel like when you just said that, I don't think I've heard anybody talk like her until I heard you right now. And this
No.
is like the first time. And I hold her in very high regard. Like, this woman is somebody of huge power in my life. And I know
Yeah.
not to like idolize or guru. I'm not doing that. I like to walk alongside her a long time in this path because the way that she's always ever expanding my energy, I feel like it's like sort of like what you just brought to the table right now. And that's not something I've run into. I think
Oh,
it's
wow.
like such a rare thing. Do you know what I mean? And maybe other people are going to find it in different ways because they're different versions. What you said is something I haven't heard outside of that ever. So I think that's so valuable. I don't think that's common. I think it's different. Maybe it's different. I don't know how to say it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
No, well, thank you. Yeah.
in my experience.
I don't think we're in a telling culture anymore. I think we're in a I walk my path with my light so bright that it illuminates yours and you can walk down your
Yes.
path, right?
Wow.
Like that's how
Yes.
I see it. Cause fuck, I don't want to tell you how to do it because I'm not gonna be as cool as you. You're gonna have way cooler options in
And
your
it's going to be
energetic
different.
universe.
It's going to be
Yeah.
different for everybody. Like the way that I walk through it or you walk through it, or
Yeah.
like I feel the same. I feel exactly the same. And it's
Yeah.
so funny because as much as there are different ways that like I will eat my cereal off a spoon, there is going to be a different way that you will connect with
Yeah.
spirit and a different thing that you have to bring. There's no scarcity either, which I love
No.
in this work, right?
I
Like
know. And I'm like,
there's
but I'm
no
like, do come back
competition,
and
there's
tell
no
me.
scarcity.
No competition. But I'm like, do come back and tell me all the weird things that happened. I do
Oh
love hearing
yeah.
your crazy stories.
Absolutely. Yes. I love that because it's a way of us to share it with someone, right? Like, I know,
Yeah.
I get it when people are look at you kind of like, well, that's a lot to take right now. I'm like, yeah, no, I know it's a lot to take, but I
Yeah.
really feel like I need to share it because it's so
Yeah.
fabulous. I don't know.
I love
Like,
it. So good. Well, I think we're going to end the conversation today. I think there's going to be more conversations in the future, but I feel really complete. Is there anything else on your heart that you really want to express, or you feel like you could share and would benefit people? And if no, that's also okay. But anything else you feel like you want to share before we complete today?
I feel like it's just like so important to know that there is so much around us that we cannot see. I think there's so much we have access to, and I love the thing you said about love. That's really the ending point, is like we're here to experience all the ways of love. And when you said that you don't go to like the exact detail, like I'm evidential because that's like what I would look for. That's what I feel like I require. Maybe
Yeah.
that's also like something for me to work through, right? Why do I require that, right?
Yeah.
And so
Maybe.
I think when you said you will have all these things come in, but you see like this entire, it's like it all connects. Like, you know, what are those maps we used to write when we were kids? You used to do something in the middle and then you'd write it out this way and like,
Oh, the mind maps.
yes, a mind map. And so I feel like you see all of this as a blueprint, but you can see what the collective message is coming in. That's so beautiful because I agree with you. I feel like it's always going to come back to a way of love.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we need to get to. And I think that's incredibly powerful. I love it.
Amazing.
I love that that's what you work on, you know, and that's what comes out
Yeah.
of you. That's what grounds me and what lifts me up like a balloon, you know?
Yeah. If people want to Kiki, if people want to find you, how can they find you in this universe? The social media you do have, or the websites maybe you have. What do you have right now, and how could they find you if they wanted to more?
What is Kiki?
Well, it means to like chat, connect. It's like
Oh, okay.
it's big on TikTok, and I really love TikTok. So,
Okay. And not on TikTok yet, but learning. Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I do have a TikTok. As I just said, I'm not on it. I'm gonna try
You have a
Instagram.
TikTok?
Maybe I
I
don't
feel like
do.
Instagram's more active. I'm trying
Yeah, yeah.
TikTok, but it's
I
very
maybe
intimidating.
Instagram. I don't have a website, so I'm a lot of word of mouth. Instagram has like a link to like book, and then as
What's
well,
your
maybe
name on Instagram?
it's very basic. It's North Van Medium Lisa.
It'll be in the show notes, but great. We'll put that in
Okay.
there as well. My fan medium.
But so then, yeah, absolutely. Like I'd love to. I think like collaborations and crossovers are the best things that we can do with communities and each other.
Yeah.
And so I'm here for it. I'm very grateful for today. Thank you for taking the time with me. I
Thank
love
you for
being
taking the time
energetic.
as well. This is great. All right. I'll talk to everyone soon. Bye.